He did a fine containment job, but will we see Smeb actually unleashed a little bit? Because the Shen, that's the first thing that SKT decide cannot happen.
All right, well, they go ahead, ban that one away.
KT left open the Zac for Peanut to first pick in the third game of the Telecom Wars a few weeks ago, and Peanut
learned from that.
Had a pretty great game, so they'll have to ban away Zac this time. I wonder if we'll just see the two big AD carries left open in the Caitlyn and the Kalista. Tristana also in the argument there as well, but SKT, with the fact that Wolf has shown no priority on Rakan, maybe banning this pick the majority of games this series.
Might be a must ban. Final here for SKT in the first half. Where do they want to go?
Elise is a possible ban, but it's a big pick for Peanut. They've been banning champions like Elise and Gragas pretty commonly. They wait the longest time. They will ban away the Elise. Thresh has not been prioritized by SKT in over a month, so I don't think that's going to be a first pick. Gragas, a big pick for them, or maybe their preference on the AD carries, because we do have the likes of Caitlyn and Kalista available. They have also gone to the Galio recently. Galio has to be banned against KT. Will be SKT running the Galio this time around. And a decent performance on the Galio recently, but every time Faker has moved away from a carry, I'm sure some SKT fans wins. Outside chance, if it's a true tank top lane matchup, we see the Galio flex to top lane. A lot of that in solo queue.
It's a possibility, but in the mid lane, it seems like a pretty juicy pick for them, given that the Cassiopeia and the Lucian have both been taken off the board. So now we have to see what Pawn would want to bring out to try to get through that Galio.
I do like the KT is the first team in playoffs to prioritize taking Galio away from SK Telecom, because it's that bridge champion. It can skirmish early, and it does transition into the sort of tank initiator that SKT look for from the jungle.
Oh, you mean the Gragas?
The Gragas, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, the Gragas there, I think, is a big takeaway from SKT. It's been the cornerstone of Peanut's champion pool. 4 games Gragas, 1 game Zac before the start of the series. Maokai is kind of a replacement and does have the reliability, but we saw Maokai caught out and basically no value out of the Nature's Grasp ultimate in the previous game. Bit more reliability now with the Galio, but look at what KT's put together. Sure, they don't have a Zac, but this is basically the greatest hits of Game 1.
I mean, honestly, I feel like you take that Shen out of the ban list, you could have plugged that Thresh right in there, and it might have been a better decision by SK Telecom, but they have a plan, and usually Koma's plans work out.
And I spent the majority of Game 1 talking about how much I liked SKT's draft, and they got run over. And the question is why? Is Pop Smithy just an idiot? And the answer is yes, but let me explain to you what KT Rolster were able to do.
I agree.
They snowballed around bot lane. They put so much value. The moment they got the gank positively in bot lane, they rewrote the script that SKT posed by taking the top lane outer turret. They ended the laning phase, and then we saw Mata turn on the game. The part of the game where we're like, KT's just rolling over them was after they took down the bot lane turret and were able to actually use the roam from Thresh to open up mid-game advantages, taking down the turret of Tristana. We talked earlier in the season about you have to gank for the Tristana lane, get her ahead, let her exit lane on her terms. This was Kalista and Thresh launched onto the rest of the maps on KT's terms, and that's why the late game never happened for SKT as it was intended. And that was the big thing here, and it's double support ban from KT Rolster, almost basically saying, hey Wolf, you're gonna have to play Tahm Kench.
All right, Tahm Kench, the Braum, also something that's available if we want to go for a melee support. Corki will be the ban by SK Telecom. Don't want that in the hands of Pawn in the matchup versus what is likely going to be the Galio.
This is Deft saying, hey, you playing Kog'Maw in a future game? Just flashing it around there. Kog'Maw, I think, will be a pick sometime in this series. Will be Smeb going on to the Cho'Gath. He's not sure who he's facing. Could be Maokai, could be Galio. Could be a third pick as well, and Cho'Gath does have the sustain to get through most lanes.
But with the self-ban on the Trundle there from SK Telecom, could put them in a bit of a bind as far as that top lane matchup is concerned. It seems like it's going to be the J4. Could always be the exchange with the Maokai up in the top and the J4 in the jungle.
There's a special name for this comp from SKT. It's the Screw You Kalista comp. We're all jumping on your face as fast as possible. That is the ultimate entrance comp here. The Galio launching in, whether it's the flag and drag, all the targeted engage from the Maokai. So definitely some headaches for Kalista. Okay, Gangplank locked in. Gangplank buffed on this patch. An old counter pick to the Shen in the top lane, but it's been great against the tanks. It's an old favorite of Smeb, and those 2 HP memes were made around a cannon barrage, Gilios.
Yeah, they were, but it's going to be Pawn looking like here in the mid lane. The mid lane,
Interesting.
The mid lane Cho'Gath, I guess, maybe not hitting that that point where Pawn feels it's viable enough. They do have 15 seconds if they want to swap this around, but it seems like we're going to be seeing GP in mid.
Let's wait and see, because you could see Cho into Galio just to feast him when the damage reduction is happening. Smeb is the more famous Gangplank player. Waiting to 20 seconds, it will be Pawn, interestingly, on the Gangplank. Mid lane Gangplank in Korea is almost a relic of GBM playing on Jinair during their Worlds Qualifier run in 2015, about 2 years ago. It's gone out of the meta for a long time. When GBM was playing it in mid, Soaz was playing it in top, and top lane became Gangplank's playground. But he's going to have a farm lane against Galio. We'll give up pressure to Galio, though, as Galio will be able to push in pretty one-sidedly. And Pawn, he's always been a mad scientist. This is a risk to run the Gangplank into the Galio.
Well, he needed something new. With the Corki being taken away, Cassiopeia and the Lucian all gone, and they landed on Gangplank. So KT, after a Game 1 victory, still spicing things up with the draft. Let's see how they're going to handle this one. SKT over onto the blue side. See if they fire back. Give us a series. Tie things up 1-1, because again, I want this one to go the distance. We'll see. Maybe we'll have a 2-0 lead for KT Rolster after this game concludes. So let's go ahead, jump straight into it, and see what happens. And here we go. SKT fans still very much cheering on for their squad despite the Game 1 loss. KT, not as loud as SKT, but again, they don't want to be that excited. They have to restrain themselves.
That's definitely a word that you have to really think about as a caster when you're casting KT Rolster.
So I'm curious, what emotions do you think are safe to express for KT?
I think hype is fine. Hype to watch them. Like, oh, I'm hyped. But you don't say I'm excited to watch KT. That's
you can't be excited, but you can be hyped for KT.
That person looks pretty hyped to watch KT.
You could be happy for them. You could be aroused by them, I suppose. I don't know if that affects anything.
Oh, it does affect some things.
Okay.
Consult a doctor.
I don't know if I don't know if that affects anything as far as the teams play.
Well, Game 1, certainly KT was showing no ill effects from not playing since the last Telecom war. Kilios, I think they have really rolled the dice on the draft for KT in Game 2. Note that they have 2 ranged auto attackers, one of which is Thresh, which lets you know that taking down turrets is going to be difficult for KT. Also, think about the teleport plays. When Maokai teleports in, he's got the target engaged. Peanuts there with the flag and drag. And then Faker launches in with his ultimate. The teleports from KT are Gangplank, who already is going to be a super reactive teleport, maybe worse than Trundle in that regard, and Cho'Gath, who's going to miss his skill shots most of the time if he has to initiate. It feels like KT, just like Game 1 and just like normal KT style, need to get the control ward line, need SKT to come to them in predictable fashion, because if they're trying to play make with Cho'Gath Gangplank teleports, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah. I do like the safety, though, for Pawn in the mid lane. Can go ahead, nom on the orange, get himself out of the taunt and keep himself safe from the ganks from the side of Peanut. If he gets him with the flag and drag, it's maybe a bit of a rougher situation. Speaking of which, flag and drag forward will get the pop-up on the Smeb. You see that passive. Doing so much damage, flash away from the rupture. Smeb flashes to the side, but
Galio coming.
Antara's going to be chasing through as he tries to just go ahead and spin them over toward the side of score, and just the presence of the Gragas is enough for SKT to go ahead and peel back.
Just the right times to flash towards his jungler.
That's 2 for 1 flashes right there.
That's true. The value is off the charts. Gragas does have the red buff relation, but that's the only punishment to KT. That's going to be worth it. Jarvan, one of the reasons why he's a pretty big jungler in Korea is that you have to warp how you play from level 2. You can't just play the expect there to be 3 camps before there's jungle pressure as early as level 2. The lane may be rewritten, but in this case, only going to be the equalizing flashes, and now Gragas may fancy a hand in ganking top.
Not quite the hook that Mono was looking for that time around.
It was a faker hook. He's predicting the next juke.
There you go. He's just a bit too far ahead in time.
That's right. He needs to rewind. He needs to do an echo. We won't say anything about chrono breaking because we don't want to have any chrono breaks in this series. We want it to be all-out action.
I would not mind a mid lane echo from Faker.
I was more talking about re-rolling the game and having a big pause and stuff. That kind of chrono break.
Sure.
Hopefully we avoid that as KT on the invade. Plus the Thresh, the double ranged. Predictably, be able to push in the Tom Ken, so we didn't even mention in draft, but was the last big pick for Wolf available, and he wants to avoid going for the range supports. Almost a Q steal by Deft, but not able to take away the big Krug.
Just going to be the TP back in the lane there from Antara. So summonerless Maokai up in the top lane as just trying to keep the wave right where it is.
This game will evolve into Score playing around bot side when summoners are down.
Rupture not going to connect, but Flash Body Slam comes through. That's going to be a red buff slow up. Nice arcane smash. Will knock them back, but Antara might still be going down. A couple more hits will do it, and they can go ahead and chase in underneath the turret.
Oh,
turn around. Pops him to the side. Score will get the first blood, but he's going to pay for it with his life.
The teleport's down for Antara, so it still ends up being a good trade for the side of KT Rolster because they'll lose significant minions to the turret. Investment of time, though. Nice turnaround from Antara. The first Q, Arcane Smash, was able to get the maximum knockback, and then that last auto attack had to be woefully under turret. So well engineered to turn around the gank from Antara, but he does end up losing a lot of minions to the point where Jarvan might just enter lane to pick up experience.
Yeah, you can see Peanut here just going to go ahead and try to scoop up as many of these as he can. Just to try to make up for it. Where's that 13 CS discrepancy in favor of Smeb?
It's not really about the gold as much as the experience this early. Getting the levels, get
those feast stacks up. And
the gold value you get in early levels is so massive that it's a big cost here as Smeb able to come back with the Mercs.
Faker's got a decent trade there, but the heal from the orange will nullify a bit of that.
His flash being down will be a big problem for Pawn. He does have the orange to get out of the taunt, but Flag and Drag is a great answer to what Gangplank will try to do. And turret dives on a Gangplank, whether it's top or mid lane, have been a story as old as time, whatever the iteration of Gangplank. Going to be on the squishy side. Still expecting Trinity Force, but the second item will be interesting at Kilios because Youmu's was buffed recently, or I guess tweaked recently. Duskblade is a very real possibility. It almost feels like your choice of serrated Dirk items once again with a Gangplank as a second item after Infinity Edge became a lot lower priority. Still a chance that with Infinity Edge being so much cheaper, it'll be considered, but I'm imagining working towards the armor penetration will be the way, the lethality for the Gangplank.
You see that level 6 coming through from Smeb. Start building up for those feast stacks. Try to get as massive as humanly possible. Remember how big Huni was in Game 1 last time these guys squared off.
You mean when he feasted from 95% HP at Talia?
Yeah.
That was sickening.
It was a great outplay. He walked up and he hit R. It was great.
There's a lot of gameplay, that's for sure.
It was the most amount.
Oh, Shogath.
Maybe if he had flashed for it. That's the only way we could have got more gameplay.
He didn't need to flash for it. He just pressed Righteous Glory.
Only the best in the world can pull that off. But for now, just going to be standard laning coming through. No more ganks up towards that top lane, at least not for the moment. Mountain Drake is going to be the start for us. So should see some heavier priority there. We already saw how much priority KT was putting on the Drakes. They have that Kalista, but playing over onto the red side is going to be a little bit more difficult for them to get into that pit. Try to take that one away early.
I spoke earlier about how KT will have the struggles when it comes to taking turrets in the late game. I think the answer is what they did in Game 1, Achilles. I think it's playing around bot side because, sure, Gangplank, Cho'Gath, they're not going to be doing too much in the lanes. They're largely going to be about the farming. But unleashing the Kalista Thresh to play make and increase the tempo of the game is what won them Game 1. I think that's the sort of thing that could win them Game 2. That's, I think, the big factor here is to see Score post getting the explosive cast, largely playing around trying to take down that bot lane turret. When SKT make their inevitable all the initiation trio of Faker, Peanut, and Antara plays, there will be a cannon barrage. The slow there could be certainly significant when it comes to the turret juggling. They have some answers, but we already mentioned the counter teleports on the weaker side from KT.
Even just that slow up to help them keep the depth safe would be quite nice. I mean, SKT, they have a lot of ways to try to latch onto that Kalista, but they did as well in game number 1. They had the Gnar, the Maokai for the Twisted Advance, Kassadin, Alistar, and they still were not able to get in on top of depth until the very end of the game when Faker got the kill, and even then had the dive. See if he can have a similar level of performance, because if so, then SKT might be in a heck of a lot of trouble.
I think might is the right word to use, though, because the guarantees of KT when you have to include things like the cannon barrage, just having the chain-linked barrels pulled off in a team fight, because you need the true damage to puncture through what is going to be some insanely tanky members of SKT. The front line is all going to go into the Gargoyle's Stone Plate and have the extra HP. Actually being able to puncture through them as the Gangplank. The role of the Gangplank in the late game fights, I don't think is as assured as Gangplank has been in other metas. Kalista for sure, the Cho'Gath potentially, but I'm very interested in what late game team fights with 3 true tanks, hell 4 true tanks, will the Tahm Kench actually look like. Especially if KT can't get the sort of control ward lead we've mentioned, is kind of a requirement for this comp to work. It's
probably something like land a bunch of barrels, hit everybody, and then the Cho'Gath can just pick one and feasts on them and they all die.
That's the dream. That's what the KT fan is hoping for, but with how tanky you get third item Gargoyle's Stone Plate, pulling it off, because you can press that Stone Plate during the animation of the barrels and answer them as bot lane.
Gonna be a bit of a play
Death
here.
Goes the wrong way.
They pop him away. Yeah, tries to get in on top of the Lantern, manages to take it away. Cataclysm comes down and he leaps over the wall. He's still alive as Mata drops the box. So even though Deft kind of botches it all, Mata still has the Lantern to get his ADC out.
And the auto attack was just enough leap range because he had boots too to actually get out of the Cataclysm. Big stuff for KT. That was a locked-on, guaranteed gank the moment that Deft juked upwards. They rewrite that script, and SKT frustrated in the bot side.
Oh, I mean, the fact that they just don't come up with that kill has to be rather infuriating. Popping everything to try to lock him down, still manages to get their way out, manages to get his way out. And they just didn't have the stack on the Dark Passage to deny that Lantern. Granted, I mean, he could have used the zoom-in technique, I suppose.
The full zoom. From what I understand, a lot of people have reported that it allows you to click on the Lantern, whatever. The stacking, and then just had just enough leap range to get a Cataclysm, because any more auto attacks from Justana would have taken him down. I like but Bang invested a lot, remember. He invested his own flash and heal just to get behind and punt him away from the Lantern. Not enough, and we already saw Score profit off the double flash being used in the top side earlier. If they can make the same play bot lane, get a kills, and even take the turret, that'd be massive for KT Rolster.
Far, just going to be 1.2 thousand here in the lead, first blood. And some of that CS really helping him out in the top lane, where Smeb finds himself with a quite nice advantage of 23. Pawn gonna get jumped on by Faker as the Orange go ahead and get out of the taunt.
Score's like, well, I'm gonna see if the enemy Raptors are up, because I'm not gonna gank this.
Waddles his way across the lane.
With purpose, though. He could have waddled behind, but he waddles in front.
He's a very driven drunk. He knows exactly what he needs to do.
Excuse me, he's a hillbilly.
Okay. Who is drunk?
A lot of the time.
60% of the time, he's drunk all the time.
That's the sort of stats I'm looking for, Achilles. Write that down.
That's a drunken stat. Well, Peanut, Black and Drag over the wall, heroic entrance just to keep him topped up.
Using Flash there was interesting choice from Score, but Thresh was around and Mata didn't use any summoners in the previous engagement down bot side. Now they know that Hero's entrance down. Teleport is up though for Faker, so this is not necessarily going to be a freebie for the Drake.
Well, they have the Ren stacks here. Pinch starting to come through, TP back into the middle of the lane from Faker. Will be arriving and doesn't have the Hero's entrance. KT starting to get pushed off as Zuntara will also be arriving. Now we're going to be seeing Smeb joining in the fray here as the play comes down. Big taunt landing from Faker. Nature's Grasp going to go ahead and run them all over, but Mata's actually going to get the kill in the end with the Ignite while he was devoured.
Drake's not even dead.
Right? Yeah, Drake has not gone down yet. Will go ahead and reset as the stacks start coming through. Mata yet again with another play. Now in onto Antara. Ren comes through, but no, it's going to be Smeb scooping up the kill with the feast, and Mountain Drake goes over to KT in the end. 2,000 gold in the lead. A couple more kills here for them. Let's see what they take next.
A catastrophe for SK Telecom T1. When Faker teleported into mid, I wasn't sure if this meant they needed the angle to engage or if they were giving up on contesting the Drake. The rest of SKT fully engaged, but the Cannon Barrage comes back into the meta, occupies so much damn space that Faker dies to Ignite in the belly of the Tahm Kench. Everyone else is playing on the edge of all of the CC. And KT Rolster get everything.
Yes, they do. Now 3-1. With that Drake in their back pocket as well. Bang will get a nice shove here onto the turret, but Deft is just going to be sticking around to go ahead and scoop up the minions, so won't be falling behind in CS. And it's going to be that much closer to finishing off that Blade of the Ruin King when he does go back. We'll get a replay of this one. It seemed like SKT had the upper hand at the start of this.
If Faker comes in, they think they're going to just take down Score, but Cannon Barrage in perfect spot. Everyone else slowly inching towards. No ability to confirm the kill they focused on. And they just turn on to Faker, who this early is not going to be unkillable. And from there, Ontara's out of position. Well, Ontara didn't need to turn around and throw a sapling, it turns out. That was a mistake. Clipped by the edge of the Rupture. So often those Ruptures miss. This one actually confirms the extra kill. And the Drake from there was straightforward.
And it's those tiny little things that can really cost you in the long run. I mean, he goes down there. You take a look back to game number 1. Bang, not flashing away from the Zac, trying to go for the leap rather than something that was much more assured. Gets taken down, transitions into his turret, and then the game went from there into the favor of KT. So those minor little interactions, those little deaths that seem like maybe they don't do much, can go a long way.
Turn here onto Pawn, but he's got Mercs, he's got Orange, so he's going to be fine.
He's K. Rather, it's K, as Gangplank would say.
Hashtag know your meme. Trying to contest the blue buff here to stop Faker from relentlessly pushing into Pawn, but not going to be able to do that. Smeb, we've seen this matchup quite a bit, Cho'Gath versus Maokai, and this has kind of been the pretty common result. It's about a 20 CS advantage or more from the Cho'Gath, who has more pushing options. Even though SKT got creative with their draft, they couldn't send Jarvan into Cho'Gath because Jarvan doesn't build enough health and goes for his standard build, Tiamat into Titanic Hydra. Can just be feasted down on a successful gank from the Gragas. They're kind of pressured to go Maokai. Ontara makes a mistake on his first team fight and also is behind in pressure. Cannot afford to make too many more mistakes like that. Unless we get to the late game where it's all a bit of a wash and you can just press W and be happy.
Peanut looking to work his way into this bottom lane. Not going to be going for the brush gank here.
Looking for the knockup party with the Galio. But Galio's in base.
The likelihood of anybody walking close enough to that wall for the flag and drag to connect, just highly unlikely, so he's just going to have to go back into the jungle.
You kind of need it to be 2 people, right, as well, because if Thresh just hangs back, it's going to
Dark Passage
undo a lot of what you're trying to accomplish. So, obvious safety being played, and not enough damage to take down the Cho'Gath and topside if you make that play. So it almost feels like it has to be one of these Drake fights where SKT make it work. You remember, the Hero's Entrance was down for their previous fight. That could have been a key ability to occupy space, get the knock-up, and the damage reduction as well. They chose to fight with that down and paid the full price for it. Let's see if the next Hero's Entrance, it's a bit like Twisted Fate ult when it comes to the use in the early game. If both of them go wide, all you really have is a super tank rather than the initiator that Galio often serves.
See what they can fire for themselves. Peanut pushing forward, looking for some vision clear out as we see that cannon barrage coming down. We'll go ahead and get rid of the wave. Yeah, that probably would have been Bang dying.
Gameplay against Thresh Hook is different from gameplay against the Blitzcrank Hook because against Blitzcrank you can just rocket jump very late and get out, but against Thresh there is always the potential that he just follows you because once you hit, you're able to choose the follow. Maybe that's why there were a couple of headaches for Bang, because working out the exact timing on the rocket jump is different depending on the hooks you're against. No hooks around here though, as we're going to watch the Rift Herald started, and a lot of secure available for KT on this one.
Be quite all right, nobody in the vicinity either. Try and take this one away. So just going to give another fee stack over to the side of Smeb. Score will go ahead and get that Rift Herald buff. We'll see how they can utilize it this time around.
I think he actually feasted too early, so missed out on the stack. Got the kill, but I think he missed out on the feast stack. Whoops.
What a scrub. Where'd they find this guy? Faker playing very far forward. Knew that he had Wolf and Peanut getting ready to back him up, but the body slam takes Score out to safety.
I mean, the whole entourage is rolling up with control ward advantage in bot sides. They didn't even have exact timings of when they'd be there, so that was the definite evacuate first and consider your options later time for KT. KT have tried to play around bot side. Again, if you track back what happened in game 1, the moment that KT got a successful gank bot side is when things got better. Speaking of ganks.
For a play here on a Score, as that Cataclysm will come down, he'll just flash out. So go ahead, get rid of that. So one less tool for the Gragas. Not too bad for just the Flag and Dragon ultimate investment. Meantime, Hook going to come out, but Mana not going to be finding the connections this time around.
Trinity Force and Dirk already complete with boots too for Pawn. He's throwing up a Storm in mid lane. Already had his first Silver Serpent upgrade as well. I believe it's increased duration. That was always the favored choice, but I didn't spot which one he chose.
Throwing down the barrels, looking for a bit more. Gets that movement speed, but the Peanut wrapping around the corner says no thank you. Doesn't want any part of that fight anymore.
KT starting to push forward into the enemy jungle, which when the mid lane's Galio versus Gangplank, you assume Gangplank could be getting pushed in, but right now with little jungle control for SKT around mid side, Horn's been one of the big profiteers, and they're turning onto their second Drake of the game. Faker's in base again.
He flag and drags in. TP's going to be coming through here from Untara. We will see that dragon going over. Now Peanut knocked to the side, gets taken out despite the hero's entrance coming through from Faker. Massive roots coming down from the Nature's Grasp, but now Untara going to be in a spot of bother. The box will not clip him. He'll get slowed up by the Ren into the hook. He goes down as Pawn finds the kill. 5-1 KT with another Drake.
SKT's shot calling is really off in this series because second time that Faker goes back to base and then teleports in, which already is going to be a more risky way to pull things off. And then everyone kind of evacuates ship in different directions. They can channel the Rift Herald. They get the Drake again. It feels like specifically around Peanut and Faker, who have so much initiation between the two of them. They really haven't reached a consensus, and that's allowing KT to increase the pace of the game. And Trinity Force walks in on the Gangplank. They still have the Rift Herald. It's 2 turrets for free.
Yeah, let's go ahead, knock that one down. Rift Herald might even be able to get a decent charge off onto this bottom inhibitor. Oh, I mean, decent for its health.
Honestly, the fact that he's already had 2 charges, this is some sort of Rift. We need to get the name of this particular Rift Herald. I wish there was a StarCraft where you could have like turret kills too if you clicked on the Rift Herald, because he's seen some stuff.
He has. Now he's going to see the grave as he goes ahead, goes back to the void. But this is, yet again, hitting an accelerated pace for KT Rolster around the same timings that we saw in Game 1.
When we cast these playoffs, so often there's performances that leave you scratching your head. You do all your preparation, you're ready to go. Samsung Galaxy's the team for me where I'm like, okay, Samsung, like what you're doing. I'm really trying to evaluate you based on your regular season, get 3-0'd. And I'm like, well, I don't know where that came from. Surprisingly, it's SKT in Game 1 and 2 who are not showing what they showed in the last 2 shows. It feels more like the SKT that dropped a game to BBQ after beating KT Rolster in the final regular season of the game. And it was very easy to write that one off. It was a very low consequential game, as Faker just hero's entrance out. But in this game, I'm surprised by how disconnected they are in fights. It feels like almost the bad sides of the Peanut and Faker coin, because so far they've been off.
God, look at this damage depth. He's gone man mode against Bang, takes him down below half HP. Starting to threaten that turret, but can't quite get it yet. In the meantime, Faker's all on his lonesome in the top lane, already used the hero's entrance to get himself out. And we'll just go ahead and work his way away from the turret as he gets taken down by Pawn.
A reactive teleport's needed for KT. They've been able to allow SKT to haphazardly engage on them twice and turned around the fights twice, so never were they able to exploit Cho'Gath and Gangplank being reactionary teleport users.
Call.
Yeah, now they're unleashed, and we saw this in Game 1. It's happened again.
Again, Barrage coming down to try to slow him up, but it seems like Tara and Peanut have gotten themselves out safely. So a bit of an investment there from the side of KT, but nothing too consequential as they go ahead and wrap back around in the mid lane where they want to keep this safe.
I've got good news for you, Achilles. You were looking for the maximum health Cho'Gath. Well, he's going the same build as we saw from Huni, and maybe less kills, but similar amount of CS.
Oh, yet again going in. We'll go ahead and get the heal away from Bang. Doesn't have the barrier this time around, but I mean, yet again, you can see just how much damage he's dealing in these exchanges. Would have been even more, but he did not have the Blade of the Rune King back up. Hook coming through, connects him onto Wolf. Pop that gray health shield to keep himself safe, and the Rend will not be able to go off as he gets out of range.
And KT have no cares. This game should not be Kalista walking up to the enemy turret,
He's
taking
just
shots,
diving
diving turrets. This is a comp that is incredibly poor at sieging, but it's snowball. There's super tanks to zone, and they're going to take the mid lane outer turret so much earlier than expected. 22 minutes with this comp to take the outer mid lane turret is ahead of timings. Other comps, 15 minutes, it's possible. This comp should not be possible.
I mean, last time around, it was the one turret that SKT had going for them at this point that was stopping it from a perfect game. Now it's just the one kill that they picked up in the top lane. KT still have a long ways to go, but yet again, it's just insane that they're able to have such a similar performance with such a different team.
And with innovation, too. The first game of mid-Gangplank in years in the LCK. That's a new one. Not since 2015, as far as I know, have we seen a mid-lane Gangplank. Maybe spring 2016 eludes me, but
I feel like Sasson might have played it.
That's true. He played everything.
He played J4 mid. That was a
He
thing
played
for a
Quinn
while.
mid also.
Yeah, that was a flash in the pan moment.
That's sadly the Korea subtitle of Saxon as well.
Yeah.
He's retired now. SKT finally getting to exert a bit of pressure on the map, trying to rewrite the script that right now is KT with melee champions, surprisingly having full map control. Cho'Gath power farming in the bot lane will have Stoneplate on his next back.
Oh, here we go again. There goes half your HP.
Bang has made Deft look silly on a couple of occasions this year, but Deft has been eating his Weet-Bix if you're an Australian and understand that particular line, because he is looking super powered after what to me was a pretty disappointing year for a player who was a superstar in the LPL. KT haven't always built around him. They're much more playing around him in this series, and then straight up, of his own volition, he's making the plays.
Slam coming through, explosive cask. Not gonna get the pop back. Devour's there.
Turning on to the Baron, SKT no longer have vision around there. There's the first ping onto it. Their secure here is about as easy as possible.
Tara still hasn't started channeling the TP. Will do so now
May
from
not.
the bottom lane, but he's not going to be arriving in time to stop the Baron from going down. The feast is there, rather, from Smeb to go ahead and confirm that one. Nation Scraps.
SKT want to fight.
Rolling through, and Tara goes in. He's advanced down in on the score, but now he's isolated. Hero's entrance will help keep him alive for the moment as Faker gets a decent little pop-up. Couple members taunted in as Smeb goes low. Can this be the turnaround that SKT desperately needs? Smeb will go down. So far, nobody else on the side of KT has been taken out, but scores on the wrong side of the map. Missile Voyage coming through, not quite the right angle, but Peanuts there to slow him up with the Aegis. And it seems like Score might just be dying in this one.
He's the fastest fat man in the West. He'll get out.
Yeah, he's got the wraparound. TP's going to be committed here by Faker.
And you get the coverage from Pawn and the Supermans. They have to cancel it. The great escape for the Gragas.
I mean, you trade Cho'Gath's life for the TP away from Faker. Both TPs used on the side of SK Telecom, and they have the Baron on 4 members. KT Rolster pretty much winning out in every single regard. They're going to get another Dragon. Yet again, double Mountain Drake going over to them.
And SKT just thought that was their moment.
Not.
They understood that, okay, this is the time. We're going to chase down the kills. We got the one onto the Cho'Gath. KT still had flashes up on many members. They still have flash up on 4. Score was the only one that had to use his. The positioning wasn't great. They got the buff. They respect the fact that SKT could come in shopped. We're going to see the replay. Just the CC is enough interrupt from Peanut, who could have tried to flash over the wall in a different game. After a different game 1 maybe even, Peanut would have tried there. But the CC from just the hook was enough. They back away. The rest of the members of KT that are not Smeb have a zoning ultimate to ensure their safety, but they just give Smeb over and understand that they don't need to make an emergency play to keep him alive.
And Score with a great escape, so holding on to that 4th buff for the side of KT. We'll see what kind of work they can get done, but you have to imagine with a Baron buff now, double Mountain Drake in their back pocket with an 8,000 gold lead. KT should be able to shatter the base of SK Telecom unless he can put on some serious heroics.
Again, let's go back to Champ Select though. Should is a strong word to talk about with this particular draft. When it comes to turret plays, the guarantees are not there. You kind of have to add the extra caveat of, yes, if they pull off a smart dive, but then diving onto a Galio for once actually playing towards SKT's strength, which for them also, it turns out at this point with how the draft has gone, is going to have to be the defensive side of the coin with the Galio and the Maokai. KT were much more set up to peel back. When you start getting towards enemy inhibitor turrets, you have to make your own dives, and the reliability goes down. So it's going to be more difficult once they get to actual inhibitor line to make the big plays.
We're looking for this turret here in the top lane. Hook comes down, Flay down onto Antara. Box not quite going to clip him. The Devourer is there, but Wolf gets popped back, has to flash away. And Faker has to Justice punch his way out of there. Looking for the taunt in, does connect it on the Deft.
Not convincing Smeb to join the fight
yet. A little bit of damage, but now the Cannon Barrage coming down.
Whoa.
And Wolf doesn't even get a chance to pop the shield. He just dies. Faker now dragged back in. Does land the 4-man taunt, but it might just be a taunt as he gets ready to go down. A couple more shots. We'll finish him off as Deft picks up yet another kill, and now that is going to be it. That's going to be the inhibitors.
And it was 4v5 as well. Cho'Gath didn't even feel pressure enough to teleport. Most people would teleport just to celebrate, but he just stayed bot lane, kept pushing. They take the inhibitor, and they don't even need to make a tough play around an inhibitor turret because they have 2 dead.
Yeah, and now they can just go ahead, push, cut straight down through the base, take a second one. It's 25 seconds left for Faker to come up. Wolf up in 1. KT likely going to be happy with this. Wave not really in a great spot to rotate over to the mid side of the map, but KT Rolster yet again against the composition against the expectations going into the series, are in the driver's seat.
The first sign that something might have been up, I mentioned it in the pregame, I went and I was like, as I always do, I'm like, okay, what's going on in solo queue? What are these guys playing? No one from KT, not even Def, the man of 5 accounts and challenger at times, were playing solo queue in the last 3 days, and I thought, huh, interesting. Weird that with 3 days left, no one's playing games. They've clearly been practicing new stuff. The gangplank, it's new. Smeb on the Cho'Gath is pretty new, actually. Maybe a single game, probably none actually played at all. The Kalista, the Thresh, the Gragas are normal. But the gangplank's slow, and zone control has meant so much because when we're seeing the initiation that Gragas, Maokai, and Galio are set up to achieve, when they initiate, they're kind of going out one by one rather than fully engaging as a 3-man because they have to respect that early in the game, with a 10,000 gold disadvantage, no one's a super tank, and they're being mowed down. Yeah,
Smeb's first time in 2017 to play this. Seems like he's got it figured out pretty well.
And it's time for Huni and Blank in Game 3. If KT Rolster do achieve a victory here, it didn't work for Samsung putting in multiple members, but obviously a lot more strength to that cavalry. KT with damage enough to zone the front line from SKT away from a turret. They already have 2 inhibitors. Just looking to brute force down another one as Smeb's certainly very large.
Yeah, all of your bases belong to me.
I think it's technically all your base belong to us.
Belong to us. I'm thinking of the cheat code, I believe, from Warcraft 3.
I'm going with the 12-year-old meme. Yeah. I'm young, guys. I'm very hip.
I'm pretty sure that was the cheat code to just finish your level in Warcraft 3 in advance.
I don't think KT need too much of a cheat code to finish this game. They already have 2 inhibitors down with 10,000 gold lead.
Maybe this is the results of the cheat code.
I mean, Cho'Gath is kind of the cheat code. Pop Stoneplate feels like a cheat code when you have 8,000 HP to tank up a turret. Waiting for them. They're waiting for their minion waves to get into spot. But Smeb, he's being engaged on, but I use that term very lightly. Air quotes there.
Slow siege onto the tower here. They'll be taking it down, and Tara throwing out the Nature's Grasp. They have plenty of time to dodge around this one in the meantime. Cataclysm coming through from Peanut, but he's locked in there with Smeb, and he's going to get taken out as the feast comes through. Faker into the back, lands a taunt onto absolutely everybody, but now he's got nowhere to go. No supporting cast as Untara will get taken down. Wolf as well. Not going to be able to offer up any of those devours. Faker doing his best, taunting everybody, but it's to the very end as he and the rest of his team will die. Bang, the last one to fall, and in 31 minutes, KT Rolster are moving to match point. The 3-0 dream is real, but do not get excited yet again. There's one more potentially to go, or do we see it? The recreation from last year, Papa Smithy. It was the other way around. It was SK Telecom 2-0 up. KT Rolster pulled off the reverse sweep. Can SKT do it here a year later?
The KT Rolster roller coaster. Remember, Rolster actually stands for roller coaster. It's literally going up the highest possible bend. All they want is to drop down to actually take the series and move on to the grand final. But like you say, Achilles, there is a bit of a mirror effect happening. It was SKT looking as imperious as KT do today. 2-0 up a year ago in the semifinal, and there the reverse sweep happened. But SKT have never had to reverse sweep KT Rolster in a best of 5 since 2013. It's been that long since that had to happen. That was the famous Ryu versus Faker play that will never be forgotten. But here today, you cannot deny that KT Rolster have shown new stuff. They have been smart. They have drafted comps that are difficult to execute. They had a terrible siege, but it never mattered here because their target selection was great. The innovation of the gangplank mid lane to control space worked to treat. And KT Rolster have answered SKT's opening salvos, punished them, and are now 1 game away from facing Longzhu Gaming in the grand final.
I mean, you talk about all the things that you had prepared that you think that KT would have to ban about SKT, but the list is just getting longer now for what SKT has to worry about on the side of KT Rolster. The Thresh has made it through the Kalista yet again, and they are still crushing.
And I got bad news for you. KT Rolster will be on Blue's side. They will get their more creative bans in, and will that mean another Zac for the side of Score? What will it mean for the draft, which already has taken some fun twists and turns?
I don't know. Such a rough spot for SKT. Haven't seen them look this down and out since their massive losing streak earlier on.
But you need to finish off SKT. You can never take your foot off the accelerator. It's not over yet.
All right, no, it's not. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, game number 3.